Hello and welcome to Pedz' Game Shack. This is episode 7 and today I have another guest on, goes by the name of Jenuall. How are you doing, dude?
Hello, I'm very good, thanks.
I'm glad you're doing well. It's nice to see you on. Some people may know you from G Arcade, the forum. Some may know you from the G Arcade Twitchcast. And some may not know you at all.
I think those are the options, yeah.
Some may know you from work. I doubt they can listen to this, but they could.
You never know. You never know.
Exactly. So you've been doing well.
Yeah. Can't complain. Kids have gone back to school, so that's happy.
Yeah.
As I said, end of the summer holidays, life gets back to normal.
Exactly. I was saying in a stream jokingly earlier that Friday's the worst day because it means the kids' last day of school for the weekend. And how I can't get my piece done. Yeah, exactly. Terrible people. So, as you are familiar, and those listening may be familiar, and for those who are not familiar, we tend to have 3 segments in the podcast. And the first segment is currently playing. So I would like to know, Jenuall, what are you currently playing?
Well, the thing that is dominating my playtime at the moment is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Nice. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I'm never sure what the preferred pronunciation is.
I say Xenoblade, to be honest.
Yeah.
So maybe they should say it in the game. Drop the title of it.
Yeah.
Oh my god, we're going to die. We must use our Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah. I mean, the people in the game, generally don't shut up. So you think they'd mention it at one point, the actual name. But yeah, they chat on about everything else. But yeah, that's pretty much. It's really weird. It's one of those things where you think kind of at the end of this year when I come to sort of do discussions and thoughts about games of the year and what have you played this year. I think I'm really only going to have played 2 games this year because Elden Ring pretty much took up the first half of my year, and Xenoblade I'm something like 80 hours into it, and I've still got quite a long way to go by all accounts. So I think it's going to, this is going to be me for a while now. So it's not been the busiest of years in terms of games, but I've got a lot of fun out of two separate games.
How are you finding 3 then? Because I absolutely adore Xenoblade Chronicles, but I never finished it. And for me, it's amazing, the first one. And then the second one, I played some of that and I just didn't get on with it as much. I don't know why. Okay. I just didn't enjoy it. It's not that it's bad. It's not that I don't like it. I just prefer 1.
Yeah.
I haven't played X or Cross, as it's supposed to be called.
I didn't know. It's supposed. I would have said X as well.
Like normal people.
Exactly. Like who? And also, who calls it cross on the PlayStation controller? It's the X button. It's not cross.
People do say that that's cross too. Square, triangle, circle, and cross.
Idiots. How am I finding it? Yeah. So I came to the series not late, but I never played 1 originally when it was on the Wii. And I was not one of the 12 people who bought a Wii U, so I never played Cross either. So my first one was 2, and I bought that very much on a whim, because I was a big fan of like JRPGs back in the day. So like obviously everyone played Final Fantasy VII on PS1 and suddenly realized, there's this massive genre of games that a lot of people in the West had never bothered with, and suddenly we all got into them. And I played all the PS1, PS2 Final Fantasies and lots of other games in the genre around that time. But then after kind of the PS2 era, I sort of dropped off JRPGs. And it's kind of one of those things where you think, well, maybe I'm just done with those kinds of games. But then I bought a Switch, and there was a lot of good stuff in that first year of the Switch. But I think it got to. I think it came out in December of 2017, Xenoblade 2. And yeah, lots, like you say, on the forums on G Arcade, lots of people were saying, "Oh, this is another big game for the Switch. You've got to play this." And I thought, yeah, I'll give that a go. Why not? And yeah, it really surprised me. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. It was one of those where I thought, well, I'll take a punt on it, and if it's rubbish, then that's just the way it goes sometimes. But it was borderline my favorite game of that year. And when you think like Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, lots of other good games came out that year. That's that's pretty high praise. So I am a big fan of 2. I did then buy the deluxe remake edition or whatever it's actually called of
Definitive
the first
edition,
game.
isn't it?
Definitive, is it? Definitive edition?
I think so.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, there's about 4 different names you can stick on a remake or a remaster, isn't there? Deluxe, definitive, director's cut, or who knows what they're all supposed to mean. Either way, I bought that. And I never know whether it's one of these things where the first one you play becomes your favorite one, or kind of sets your perspective on, oh, this is what the series is like. And then kind of each one being a bit different. You think, well, I don't like the things that did as much as how I like the first one. So I enjoyed 1, but I think probably because a lot of people were like, I think it's common for people to think like you do. I think most people played the first one, really liked it. And then I think quite a lot of people bounced off the second one. So I was kind of like, well, I enjoyed the second one. So if I like that one and everyone prefers the first one, I'm in for a real treat. So I think I probably hyped it up a bit too much in my head. So when I got to 1, I thought, well, this is an 8 out of 10 to 2's 9 or 10 out of 10 for me.
Definitely an edge 10.
It's an edge 10.
It's an edge 10. Not a 10. It's an edge 10.
Yeah, it's a very, very different thing.
Even if Edge didn't give it an edge 10, I'm giving it an edge 10. I have nothing to do with Edge in any way, shape, or form. Still an edge 10.
So it was one of those where I'm like, do I like this series? Or do I just like 2? What was specifically good about 2? So it was one of those where I came to 3 and I thought, well, I've enjoyed both 1 and 2. I really liked 2. So I was like, I was one of these people. I think I was kind of hoping, I really hope 3 is a bit more like 2. Whereas I think most people were thinking, I really hope 3 goes back to being more like 1. And I think it does to a certain extent. I think it's a quite a hybrid of the 2. I think so. I think people who enjoyed 1 more will probably get more out of 3, but I think it still does things that please people who liked 2. If you see what I'm saying,
As they go Welsh cat people in it, because that's what people care about in 2, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Absolutely, yeah. Nia in 2 is one of the best game characters ever, I think, and a large part of that is down to the Welsh accent, I think. Yeah. There's like 6 main characters in this, which is quite a lot to juggle. But yeah, one of them is a Welsh cat person, so it ticks that box.
Cracking.
Oh, dear. So yeah, that's kind of it's been very good so far. I think it's got 6 or 7 chapters. I'm in chapter 5. So I'm not quite done with it yet, and I get the impression from hearing sort of feedback from other people that it throws a lot of you towards the end. So it's kind of like top heavy. So you think you're on the last chapter, but I think there's still quite a lot of content to the last chapter. So
right, nice. How are you finding it? I know you finished 1 and 2, but how are you finding it compares to, say, roughly 80 hours on both of the others?
So quite early on, I think my head went to the position of, I like this more than 1, but it's not going to top 2 for me. And I think I've stayed in that position kind of the whole time. Like I said, I'm 80 hours in now, so I don't think it's going to sort of throw a curveball at this point and suddenly change what it is and how I feel about it. I might be wrong. It might do some surprising things. But yeah, it's they're all very good games. And I like the things that this has taken from 2. And I the story in 2 is a bit all over the shop, and tonally 2 is a bit sillier than 1, and is a bit it goes to a few odd places.
Yeah, but do you know what? The thing that sticks out for me is whenever it's mentioned on Twitter, not exactly the bastion of gaming niceties, but it does have it tends to pop up with a meme about like silly characters and giant boobies.
Yes,
with 2.
That is a core sort of criticism of it, which I think is fair. There's definitely a lot of, if anyone who loves Xenoblade 2 has to sort of put the caveat of, you have to look past a few bad decisions in terms of character design and direction. There's a few like clearly trying to please teenagers characters, and like it'll just decide to have like a major cutscene, and it's like, do you know what we really need to see at this point is a close-up of the female character's arse for some reason. That's what really conveys the emotion of what we're saying. And it's like you just have to go, right, fine, that's what you want to do. I'm not gonna damn the whole thing because of that, but it would have been better if you didn't choose to do that.
That's fair enough. Some people like boobies and bums.
They do, and I'm not gonna criticize them for that. But it's just that in some ways it actually tackles some quite like interesting philosophical concepts and things like that. And then it's like it almost decides it has to balance that out by having like, oh, and then we've got like a sort of comic relief perv character in the background as well, like dancing around. It's like, you can just do the one thing. You don't have to try and please everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
But you take the rough with the smooth.
Yeah, from Sons of you need to. But I need to get back to both 1 and 2, but there's just too many games.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very much like I say, I strongly suspect I will have played very few games this year. And I've kind of come to terms with that now in terms of like the whole FOMO thing. It's like, well, there's too much stuff. You're never going to play all of it. Just enjoy the things you do play is the way I'm looking at it these days.
I've played a lot of games this year. I've finished about 40 or so.
Fair play. That's good going.
But for me, that's a fucking rarity. But some of them have been games I didn't particularly enjoy. Like some of them I've done for a laugh on stream, like the Paw Patrol on a Roll and the Paw Patrol movie game. I finished those two this year.
Fair play.
Ben 10 Power something or other that you said you should play this, so I did.
You fool.
I preferred it to Paw Patrol on a Roll, let me tell you.
I've also played the Paw Patrol games and Ben 10, and Ben 10's definitely better. Yeah. As far as like kid friendly games go, there's actually a game there, whereas Paw Patrol is there's virtually nothing to it. It's like there's not really any way to lose that game, is there? It's just
you can't
move the character in the right place, pick up what seems to be like 1,000 little pup treats.
Biscuits,
yeah.
And I played through loads of stuff, including my friend Peppa Pig.
Oh wow!
It was a fun stream.
Getting all the hits in.
Yeah, but I have finished games like Elden Ring and stuff, so which Elden Ring and the first game we talked about, me and Cumberdines on the podcast, Infernax, are probably my two favorite games from this year. I'm not even a From Software fan. For people who know me, know that I've only ever finished Dark Souls 1, and that took me about 10 years and 3 different attempts to get into it. And when I finally did get into it, it really clicked. But after that, I've played 3. I've played Sekiro. I've played Bloodborne, and I just don't enjoy them. But for some reason, Elden Ring really clicked for me. And I'm not. And the thing is, I'm not a massive open world fan. I'm not a massive From Software fan. So for them to come together and give me the game which I've enjoyed as one of the most this year is pretty impressive for
Yeah.
you know. But
that is just, yeah, like you say, if you've gone through kind of a few of their games in a row and they've not clicked, for this one to sort of make the differences, it's surprising.
Definitely my favorite From Software game, but I don't think that's going to be the case with a lot of people. I think most people seem to prefer either Dark Souls 1 or Bloodborne.
Yeah, so that's another series I came to late. The first Dark Souls game I played was Dark Souls 3. I think I got that kind of like 2017 in like a Steam sale, back when Steam sales used to be ridiculously good. I think it had only been out for a year and it was like 10 quid or something. So I thought, oh, I'll give it a go. Everyone raves about these. And I didn't finish it, but I thought, you know what, this is actually quite good. I can see why people go on about it. But then I didn't play another one for ages. And the first one I finished was going back to the remaster of Dark Souls 1. And now, I would count myself as a FromSoft fan, as in I've played most of the games. There's none of them that I've kind of bounced off. I enjoy all of them. I like what they do. But yeah, I would probably put Elden Ring at the top now, because I think it's got the strengths of a lot of the earlier games. So it's very much Dark Souls but open world. But I think it does just enough with that formula that softens some of the edges and kind of some of the reasons why people might not have enjoyed the Dark Souls games. It kind of gives you ways to counteract those. You can approach it in different ways. In terms of I think it supports more character builds. So if you kind of thought, oh, Dark Souls, it's just about being a guy with a sword and you have to hit people a lot with your sword and get really good at that. I think Elden Ring, it's a lot easier to go, do you know what, I'll try a different approach, or I'll go somewhere else and I can't get through this castle, so that's fine because I can go somewhere else. I'll go explore what's over this other part of the island, or I'll go somewhere else.
Exactly.
So I think there's a lot more options to avoid getting frustrated.
I think that's one of its major benefits, especially earlier in the game, because very late in the game, kind of more focused.
Yeah, it does. It starts to sort of narrow the scope quite a lot towards the end, doesn't it? And it becomes kind of more like, okay, now it's just a Dark Souls game again.
Yeah.
But I think it has to conclude in some way, doesn't it? So you can't just stay fully open forever.
No. That is unlikely to work. Then again, people say it worked with Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, it did.
I've talked about Breath of the Wild plenty of times on the Twitch cast. I don't know if I have on here. I'm a person who enjoys Breath of the Wild, but I don't think it's the second coming like everyone says.
I would join you in that position. It's
I know people, like when we were doing the thing on GRK where people were moving a game. Majora's Mask to me is a much better game than Breath of the Wild, and it's a much smaller game.
Yeah,
I think I think Zelda doesn't. I think the fact that Breath of the Wild for me seems too unfocused for me, and that's a problem I have with a lot of open world games. Is like they're so I generally prefer a more linear experience to big open world games, and I think Breath of the Wild is too open, and it's quite sparse as well, like compared to Elden Ring.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem to be as much variety or anything like that, unfortunately.
Yeah. One of the things that a lot of people said they loved about Breath of the Wild, which I never quite got, is actually part of what really worked for Elden Ring with me. Because people were like, oh, I could, in Breath of the Wild, I would just see something in the distance, and go and explore and discover something amazing. I never really got that with Breath of the Wild. I always felt like, well, there is a big world to explore, but none of it looked, it's that often it's like, well, I'll just go somewhere because I need to go somewhere else. It's not like, oh, I've seen a really interesting looking mountain in the distance and I'll check out what that's got for me. Whereas Elden Ring, I think, really did do that. You come through that first doorway to the open world, and immediately you can see lots of landmarks. It's like, well, there's a castle over there, and there's like a hill over there, and I can see like if I look over here, there's like the sea is over there, and I can see there's like a beach down there. Like, yeah, I think it's very good at drawing your eye towards
Yeah.
things. And it wasn't until very late in the game where I thought, actually, well, now I will start looking at the map and just finding places I haven't been. I didn't have to do that at all for the most part, because it's just like, well, I've loaded the game and I've not been over there. There's a forest over there, and I can see there's like a giant bear in the forest. That looks like an interesting thing. Let's find out what that bear's doing. And it was always
Killing you.
just breadcrumbs leading you places. And I think that, yeah, and if that's what people got from Breath of the Wild, then I can see why they loved it so much. But I never really got that from Breath of the Wild, but I did get that from Elden Ring.
I actually played Elden Ring more than I did Breath of the Wild as well. I was playing Breath of the Wild, and I think I got around 50 hours, and I just thought, I'm just finishing the game, or I won't get it finished.
Yeah.
I think I've played it for around 55 hours. Whereas with Elden Ring, I was playing it, I got to around 80 odd hours, which is still not a lot for a lot of people put hundreds of hours. And I put in about 80 hours. And it wasn't the fact that I was like, right, I'm going to go finish this. It was, I just happened upon walking into where the boss would be, and I was like, I must be getting near the end of the game, and someone in chat said this is the final boss. I was like, okay then.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But I think that's a good sign. If you stumble onto the end almost not realizing it, it means it hasn't outstayed its welcome. It hasn't, you haven't got bored of it. You're not kind of clock watching thinking, oh, when's this over? That's, I'd take that as a good sign. I did put a lot more time into it. I was well over 100 hours by the end. I was almost like frightened / surprised at how much time I did put into it. But again, it never felt like that sort of completionist streak that the Ubisoft style. I must tick off all the boxes. I must visit all the icons on the map. It wasn't that kind of busy work. It was just I'm just having fun for 150 hours, and it never felt tiring or tiresome.
I would completely agree with that. And the thing is, while I was streaming it, so I didn't play it off stream with that character. But while I was streaming it for a bit, I made another character. So off stream, I was playing as like a magic using character. So I had two characters on the go for a little bit, and it was quite fun. Which I've not done. I don't tend to do that with games, any games. So there was something about it that really drew me in.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that, really. And Breath of the Wild, unfortunately, didn't do that for me.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to Breath of the Wild. Tears of a Kingdom or whatever it's called. But I don't know. It's not. I want something more focused, like Ocarina or something, or Majora's Mask, or all the games before Breath of the Wild.
I would love it if they found a middle ground between what Breath of the Wild did and what some of the more linear games before offered. I don't want them to just do the same thing again. It's like, I've played Breath of the Wild. I really enjoyed Breath of the Wild. I don't want to kind of like do it a disservice. It's clearly a really good game.
Yeah, very good game.
I put over 100 hours into that as well. So I clearly, I liked what I was getting from it. But I think it would just need a bit more focus, a bit more like chuck 8 really well-made dungeons into Breath of the Wild, and I think you have then got probably a 10 out of 10 game. I think it just needed that little bit more controlled content, which is that's what Elden Ring is like. It's a big open world, but every now and then it's like, bang, now you're in a big, intricate, well-designed Dark Souls level kind of sat inside that open world. It's like, this castle is a Dark Souls level. It just happens to be inside a much bigger game, and there's like about 5, 6, 7 like locations like that throughout Elden Ring. You've got that first castle. You've got like the academy university place. You've got kind of these key locations like the volcano manor and things like that. I think if Breath of the Wild had something a bit better than the divine beasts, which were a bit of an anticlimax, I think that would have really tipped it over the edge for me.
Yeah, I agree with you again. Another thing is, I think we've discussed this before on the Twitch cast, is when you come across outposts and things, it kind of feels pointless doing them because, yeah, you kill a couple of things, but you don't really get anything for it. Like, oh, yeah, you'll get a chest where you open the chest and it's the weapon you were using that just broke, or a worse one. And it's like, there's no real incentive to do the camps because you don't tend to get anything that's that either lasts long enough to enjoy or you just get crap.
So there's only so many times you can kick open a little chest and see 20 rupees come out and not be just very disappointed.
I think that was one of the issues with not having dungeons and giving you everything from the start, more or less. It removes because you have everything from the off. Everywhere you can go, you can solve it. There's no, I need to work this out. Come back with the right thing I need to get further, because you just can. Whenever.
I think it's the kind of, Zelda has always been kind of a controlled progression game. It's about you do this dungeon, you get the new item, and that now lets you move the thing that was blocking you from going, down this valley or through this like forest or what. It was all about kind of your abilities open the world up more as you go. Like, I've always thought they're quite similar to Metroidvania type games, your traditional Zeldas. It's kind of all about your gear and your powers sort of unlock the world more. And like you say, once you leave the Great Plateau in Breath of the Wild, you can go anywhere. You have basically all the powers you're ever going to have. You might get some gear that helps you climb a bit faster or survive in the cold a bit longer, but fundamentally you're not restricted at all. And in some ways that's a good thing, and it's like liberating. But in other ways it means, well, what can the game do now to make me feel more empowered later? You kind of the sort of progression goes very flat from the start. I actually think the opening of the game is by far the best part. So when you are on the Great Plateau and you haven't got all of your powers yet, there's a bit very near the start where you have to like chop a tree down to make it fall across like a chasm, so you can climb over it, and then you have to sort of like struggle to climb up a mountain to get to something. And it's like, well, that game, as it was at that point, I found much more interesting. It's like, okay, well, I've got to be like inventive here, and I've got to find a way to solve this problem. Like, how do I get through this really cold area when I haven't got, I haven't got just an outfit I can put on, which means I can survive in the cold however long I want. I've got to think, okay, well, how can I set a fire to keep me warm? How can I, harvest some berries that I can turn into a meal that will make me stay warm and up there? That was more interesting to me. And then it seems very quickly after that opening, it's just like, don't worry about any of that stuff anymore. The cold isn't really a problem. Climbing things isn't a problem. Kind of, getting across rivers isn't a problem because you just paraglide over everything. It seems like a lot of the challenge just disappears, which was slightly disappointing for me. But.
I don't think there's a thing there that I can disagree with, to be honest with you. To be fair though, I know that people will disagree. People are going to disagree. People are going to tell us to shut our stupid whole mouths and don't have to Zelda again. But like, at the end of the day, that does seem more interesting when you're having to work things out, because after that, you just got everything to do it. Like,
but you can't please all the people.
So. No, and like, it's still a really good game. It's just it didn't grab me like previous Zelda games. It didn't like grip me in the same way, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because when I was anticipating the game, I was expecting an amazing game, and it is an amazing game, but it just didn't have a hold on me like previous Zelda games.
That's how I feel as well. Kind of sort of on that topic, and kind of but staying on the topic of kind of what are we playing at the moment. I have actually fairly recently gone back to play Ocarina of Time.
Oh, nice.
And it's one of those that you kind of almost forget what it's actually like, and it's just you have your memories and your highlights and things. It was so surprising, sort of going back to that, and how sort of pared back the game is, and and also how quick everything happens. Like in a modern game, like you'll spend hours before you really do anything. I think I'd only played it for about an hour or two, and I'd kind of done the first 2 dungeons and like seen a lot of the world. It's surprising how quickly you kind of just get through stuff in those older games. And just like how immediate everything is. It's like, first 10 minutes you get your like sword, your shield, and it's like, right, drop you straight into a dungeon. And even just kind of like thinking about Wind Waker takes quite a long time to get going.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to think, just how quickly sort of things did change from that sort of immediate. We can't throw too many cutscenes at you. We don't, there's not a lot of like heavy dialogue. It's, here's a bit of setup. Here's the the Deku tree or Deku tree. I don't know how you say it.
I say Deku.
Deku. Yeah, there he is. He kind of gives you a bit of like a reason to do the quests you're being sent on, and it's like, right, get on with it. And that I thought was actually quite refreshing to go back to, especially as like having like last year with Skyward Sword coming out, playing that for the first time, and that's another one that was quite like.
That's very heavy
going. Yeah, it's like, okay, can I just play the game now?
No,
like,
you can't.
Leave me alone.
You're not allowed to play the game. You wait your 5 hours before you be able to do anything you want. I think Twilight Princess was the same though. There was a lot of crap before you actually got to do anything, and I think that happens in quite a lot of games nowadays.
Which is it's quite refreshing to sort of play something old school that isn't like that, because you forget. You think, oh, actually, the games have been like this for a long time, and I guess Ocarina of Time was a long time ago. But it's nice sometimes to just be left to get on with things.
I agree completely. I've agreed with you a lot so far. Anyway, we can move on to some news now, which we call top news, because I'm very, very creative. And I say the reason why is because instead of doing just a big news segment on loads of different news subjects, we just pick one subject and talk about that. The thing I thought we discuss is nothing, because nothing as interesting as that.
Oh, that was quick.
Except for the Grand Theft Auto 6 leak.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Basically, from what I understand, there's a lot of videos of the game that have leaked of alpha footage or pre-alpha footage. I'm not sure.
I think
which.
that sort of period in development.
Yeah, and also the source code was supposed to have been taken, which from the sounds of it is a very, very bad thing. I don't know anything about game development itself to really say, but I'm assuming if people have the source code, it means they can probably do what they want with the game, or use the source code to somehow figure out their own stuff and cheat online. And
it's not, your source code getting leaked at any point is not a good thing, kind of whether it's a long time before the game comes out or it's kind of when the game is actually released. Like you don't want people to know about your source code. Most of what, if the source code has been leaked and there's still like 2-3 years before this game's coming out, most of that code's going to change. So it's not necessarily the end of the world, but you still don't want people seeing what you're doing. Kind of, it reveals the things you're working on. It reveals kind of how you're going about it. There's potentially like, trade secret type stuff about they might have been coding something in a particularly like exciting or clever way that then now everyone else knows how we're going to do that. So yeah, it's never a good thing, is it? Let's face it.
No. But there's been quite a few things with this. There's been the whole Rockstar deserve this happening to them because they've taken so long making the game. I'm not into GTA, so maybe I don't care as much, but I don't think any developer deserves being hacked and having load of their shit leaked. Personally, I think
certainly, yeah, not for that reason. I mean, I get you.
No.
Know,
there's other reasons for Rockstar to have this happen to them, like from bad practices and shitty employment practices and things like that. But just because they've taken a bit too long on a bloody game, get a fucking grip.
Absolutely, yeah. But then, gamers have as a collective group sort of shown quite a lot of tendencies towards being, quite
entitled assholes.
Entitled, I think, is probably the safe term to use.
Yeah. But so that was the one thing is like the whole they deserve it. I disagree with that. They didn't deserve having their stuff hacked for that reason. Like if it was hacked and there was other reasons, like I mentioned, then fair enough. No, but at the same time, people ain't gonna get this shit for even longer now. If they have to rejig everything and change source code and whatever else. So it's not exactly a great thing for those people who are mourning and waiting for it to come out. The other thing that was brought up was how awful the game looks. Like I noticed people on G Arcade saying it, but it seemed on there, because I know the people there more, that it seemed more of a joke for the most part anyway. Like saying, "Oh, it looks like a PS2 game" and things like that. And even that doesn't look like a PS2 game. But what I've noticed is a lot of developers have come out and said, "Look at our alpha and pre-alpha stuff." Like Sea of Thieves had what I thought were Tic Tacs with faces as they pirates on really bad chips and things in their pre-alpha. The humans were not human at all. They were Tic Tacs with faces. So, I think people come in to, not so much to Rockstar's defense, but more come into like the defense of graphics are not the first thing done.
Yeah.
Because people seem to be saying like graphics are so important, they're done first. And like people are like, no, that's not the way things work. The way things work is we get everything else down, and then graphics and things come much later in the process. We need to get the game to work first.
Exactly. What is the game? Kind of, build the sort of functions and features of the game rather than making it look nice. That's what you do last, if anything. But yeah, I think that's kind of the frightening thing, isn't it? It's just how like not only sort of entitled people are, but how just like naive or unaware they are about actually how these games are made. Like clearly the first thing you do is not to make it look amazing. That's just the stupidest idea ever. And yet, clearly millions of people on Twitter were posting like genuine comments saying like, "Oh, this looks terrible. Like Rockstar are clearly failing." And it's like, no, you just do not know what you're talking about. And I think one of the big sort of discussion points that came out of it was that for years, again, like entitled gamers have been like, "Oh, why do we get so many like pre-rendered trailers, or why do we just get a trailer that says we are making this game? You never show us stuff. Why don't you show us the game like years before it's ready?" And it's like, well, this is why we don't show it to you, because there's nothing to show. It does not look good until it's nearly finished. Like why do you think devs don't want to open up about showing you stuff in development? Because this is how you all react. You all like fly off the handle and assume it's crap. You can't have your cake and eat it. Basically, you can't say I want to see in development stuff and then trash that in development stuff when you do see it. It's just such a weird like set of opinions that kind of this like group, like mass of gamers, like generally seem to sort of end up having, or at least the loudest people seem to have.
Yeah, I think it's more louder than like amount of people. Like I think a lot of people will generally be more shocked than anything than complain about how it looks. Like shocked that this got leaked and it's like, oh well, the game is definitely in development. We guarantee to see some of it, even if it is pre-alpha footage.
Yeah,
but then you have like a small minority then who are like really boisterous and like, this is shit. What are you doing? It's been 9 years since Red Dead Redemption 2. What have you been doing? But like, there's a lot that goes in. It's not just like, I will make a game, sit down, done.
Yeah.
It's like, there's a lot of planning and everything involved before they even start.
Yeah. I think it's just, I think it's probably, I mean, and this might be a naive statement from me, but it feels like gaming is the like industry or like entertainment medium where there is just the biggest lack of understanding about how things are actually made. Like most people understand, like when a film is being made, you know, there's like a period in production where it's just writers working on it. Someone has to write a script for what the movie is going to be like, and then they rewrite that several times, and then there's, you know, you get the director involved, and you get you do all the casting, and then there's the actual filming of things, and that can take, you know, weeks or months and however long it takes. And then there's kind of, right, you've filmed everything, but now you have to edit all of that together, and you have to then add in kind of all the special effects. And so I think for the most part, most people kind of, you know, going to the cinema, watching movies, they understand like that sequence of events, and that most of those stages take quite a long time. But it feels like most gamers, or lots of gamers who are shouting about this stuff, and just don't seem to understand how these things happen, and how, like, just how much work goes into making a game, and just how long it takes. It just feels like such a weird situation where you've got these like millions of people buying these things and having so little idea about how they're actually made, and then getting increasingly demanding about what those developers are giving them, and how open the developers are about the process. And it just all seems very weird to me.
Yeah, well, hopefully, I don't know, maybe the best thing to do in some ways is for developers to react the way they have been reacting by showing footage of games in early development, not because people need to see it and it's all like prove anything, but more for people to gain some insight and knowledge about how things are done. That way people can be more understanding, because they'll actually understand. It's a bit more awkward to understand something if you're not fully aware of what's going on in the background.
Exactly.
You don't need to go super in depth. I think just, you know, like some kind of there probably is stuff out there, but if it's more in the public eye, just some little occasional, like, you know, this is the kind of stuff we do in this is this kind of stuff we have to do then, so, you know, people can actually gain the knowledge. Like,
that potentially might be a good outcome of this, is that with all these devs like sharing on Twitter, like, okay, here's what our game looked like 2 years before release, or here's what our alpha footage looked like. Hopefully more people now will go, actually, right, I do understand a bit more now about how this works. And that's a silver lining, I think, to this situation. Probably won't make Rockstar feel, you know, any better, but hopefully some you know, moaning gamers on Twitter might gain a bit more perspective as a result.
Yeah, agreed. Hopefully that will be the case. I haven't really got much else to say about this, so if you want, we can go on to the next topic, unless you have more yourself to say.
No, I'm similar to you in that GTA is a series I've kind of dropped off from for quite a while. So I didn't really care that GTA 6 was in development or not, and I didn't really care that the sort of the footage of it and the source code of it leaked. It is interesting. to follow the story. But yeah, personally, I'm not bothered. I probably wasn't going to play it or buy it. So
no, same here. Knowing me though, I probably will end up picking it up because I pick up games on a whim a lot of the time. Like I got Red Dead Redemption 2. I've not played it. I've only ever finished one Rockstar game. One in my entire life.
That's impressive. Yeah.
What game was it? I'm going to ask you.
Bully.
No, it was Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
And it was about a year ago for GR played.
Oh, no, I do. Yeah, I remember you playing that now. Yeah.
Yep.
I remember you having lots of problems with horses and things like that.
I didn't kill any horses. How dare you? Anyway. So, moving on to the next topic of discussion, it is going to be We Play Together, which is me and Jenuall have played a specific game. That game is called Medievil. We played the PlayStation 4 remake of the game, though we didn't play the original PlayStation 1 version. Or at least I didn't. Jenuall might have.
No, I've not played the original.
I've not played the original either, so going into Medievil for me was a new experience. So what are your thoughts on it? Have you finished the game or?
So I've not finished it. I did look up earlier kind of about sort of how long is this? How far through am I? Because I thought, am I going to be able to power through the end of this before we talk about it? And the answer was no. I think I'm a bit over halfway, but I think I've got enough experience of it to sort of get a feel for. Again, like I was saying about Xenoblade, I don't think it's going to suddenly change in the back half of the game and become something totally different. I think I've got a good measure of what the game was offering. How about you? Did you get all the way through?
Yes. No,
of course you did.
I didn't. I actually got. I'm assuming about halfway through the game myself. I don't know. The last level I did was something or other. I've unlocked the stairs to go upstairs in the.
Okay, so you're further than me then, because I've yet to get upstairs in the Hall of Heroes. I think it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, Hall of Heroes. I'm upstairs. Got one item from upstairs, and I haven't played it since Monday because I'm just like I'm not into this game. I'm just not enjoying it. I don't feel it. I think there's some funny writing in it. There is. Aesthetically, I like it. There's a lot of things I do actually enjoy about it, but I just don't like the combat.
Do you know what? That is pretty much exactly how I feel. And it's one of these where it feels very old school. It feels like a PS1 game, which is obviously it's a remake of a PS1 game.
Yeah.
And I'm actually now really curious to go back and maybe play the original, or at the very least like watch some let's plays on YouTube or something to see just how like for like this remake is it literally just the same game with a lick of paint? Because it really does feel like that era, like that mid-90s. It's an early 3D game, kind of. There's not a lot of depth to the combat. You know, you move around, things run towards you and hurt you, and you have to just try and hurt them quicker than they hurt you.
Yeah, that's my issue.
That's about it.
The one thing this game needed to make the combat a lot better, one thing in my opinion, it needed a lock on.
Okay. I thought you were going to say that, yeah.
You were able to lock onto an enemy, it would be great. You can't.
Yeah. Yeah. It at times becomes incredibly frustrating as a result of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get the hammer item?
Yes, the hammer item that's incredibly slow to use.
It is incredibly slow, but what I do is I basically hold circle, it charges up to full attack, and then I hit that, and I run away, and then I charge it back up, and then I use that, and I use that more than I do any other weapon I've got.
Do you know what? That's exactly what I did.
The sword is just there. There's like, it feels like there's no. It's awkward. It's weird to say, but it feels like there's no weight to it. You're just slashing wildly, when you're tapping the button, you're just slashing wildly. And if things come to you, like if you hit them, they just carry on coming at you and hit you, and it's like, well, this isn't good enough. So if I charge up the hammer and whack it, it stops for a sec to give me a chance to whack it again.
Yeah,
but you've got to fully charge it, because if you don't fully charge it, there's a bit of delay on when he'll stop charging, put it down, and then pull it back and slam again. It's like, no, that's stupid.
That's the kind of thing that in this day and age would surely get like play tested out and like smoothed over, because that's ridiculous. Yeah, like you have to hold for like about 3 or 4 seconds to get a fully charged circle hit.
Yeah,
but if you don't do that, then he just seems to like wait for a second before doing anything, and you can't hit in that time, and you can't start charging again, and it's just like, well, you're just going to get hurt. And it's quite hard to tell sometimes whether is he fully charged or is he not. And a number of times you like release it slightly too early, and so you end up just dying. It got very frustrating.
I died a lot in this game, considering. I know I don't mind dying in games. That it's just the thing, but it feels very. I don't know. It feels random. It
feels quite cheap, doesn't it? It's like, I don't mind, like, it's like, again, we talked about like Dark Souls and Elden Ring and things. You die a lot in those, but for the most part, you die because you did something stupid or you haven't learned what you're supposed to be doing yet. In this, it's just like, well, you died because it's that kind of game, and you just die, and it's not really your fault because there wasn't anything you could do. For ages, I thought I just missed something in the tutorials, and like, is there a way to lock on, or is there a way that I can dodge or like parry or like no, there's not. This is the game. It's just try madly to not get hurt whilst you try to hurt things quicker than they kill you.
I will say though, the bosses are pretty fun to fight, because they actually do have like a kind of, they tend to have like tactics to them. There's like actual things going on with the bosses. Not the mini bosses where it's like, say, 2 wolves will appear and you need to kill them. Like, not that kind of thing, but like the glass person.
Yeah, that's kind of the first sort of proper boss, isn't it? And there's
that
like
kind of thing is
there's a pattern to it. Yeah, and you've got to work out, okay, this is what I need to do. That was quite good. And every now and then, I think there are sort of enemies that are more enjoyable to fight. It's like there's a level that's like in a farm or like at a cornfield or something.
Yeah.
And there's like these like metal monster things in there, and you have to kind of like shoot their head, and like, and if you get behind them, they can't attack you. And it's like, okay, well, there's a tactic here, and I can work out how to defeat this thing. Whereas most of the time it is just bash the buttons as quickly as you can and try and run away.
The worst enemy in the game for me that I've fought so far is the fucking scarecrows in that level.
Oh yeah. They just, and I think that there is either a loading screen or one of those like books you can read does basically say, you can't kill these guys, just run away. And it's like, well,
you can't kill them, they just take a while. I know that, because I had to kill them all. I had to kill them all because I wanted the bloody chalice on my level. So I got that. They weren't letting the game beat me. Well, I did. I'm not playing this since Monday.
It beat you eventually, but
it did. Yeah.
No, those scarecrows were annoying. But most things in the game were annoying.
It's a shame, because, like I said, there's a lot to like about the game. Like it is actually pretty witty. Witty. There was meant to be T's there. Bit witty. So it is witty. There is some funny writing. I like how the heroes in the Hall of Heroes all seem to be a bit react kind of differently to you. So far. They're not just like, oh my god, you're so amazing. They're like, I don't like you. But
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you've got the ones who, because yeah, the story was mildly interesting, and kind of the idea of actually you're made out to be a hero, but you died straight away in this battle that happened, and so some people know that you're kind of a fraud and you were never really a hero. Other people kind of like genuinely think you were a hero and sort of worship you as a result, and that's kind of quite interesting. And yeah, it is quite fun. The sort of the dialogue sometimes. And like you say, it's I think it's a nice looking game. They did a good job of updating it visually. At times, it looks. I've been playing on PS5. I don't know if it looks any better or plays any better on PS5.
No idea. Don't play any better.
yeah, the game's still crap, but it does. Yeah, it looks really nice. So the art team, who obviously did their work first, they showed up. But yeah, the gameplay is just not great.
No, I genuinely think adding a lock-on button would make that game much better, because you can actually maneuver a bit better when fighting. Even if you can't dodge or parry or anything, you could still block, even though it does damage your shield. You can still block, but you can also maneuver. Like, if you attack someone, you can maneuver out better instead of running away and the camera goes all weird and turns around and then you can't see the thing that comes up behind you and stabs you up your ass.
Yeah. I think, like you say, lock on would help a lot. And I think, just like you say, a bit more weight to things. Like, if I hit you, you should at least react a bit and like move. Like, it's the fact that it's just you can hit them with your sword and they'll just carry on and still hurt you. It's like, well, what was I supposed to do about that? I need to get close to this guy to hit him with my sword. But if I get close to him, I'm guaranteed to also get hurt myself. And it's just kind of, a war of attrition type thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I spent ages just using those throwing daggers because, well, I'm not going to get close to you because you just end up killing me. So I'll just throw loads of daggers at you. But then you have to spend loads of like coins to buy more daggers.
Yeah. It's pretty pricey. Like, and you don't get a lot of money really.
No.
Like, I had to buy my freaking shield back.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and also just like stupid things like, if you have a shield, you can't pick up another shield kind of thing. It's like, so I thought, oh, okay, I've got a shield and it's nearly broken. I'll pick up a new one to like have that kind of like in my inventory. And it's like, well, when this one breaks, I'll get a new one. And it's like, well, no, you've just got one shield and that's it.
It's more annoying when your shield is like, oh, this when you've done realizing your shield is like pretty much full health. And then you get another one, you're like, oh, okay, that's just repaired my shield like 2%.
Yeah, that was a waste. Yeah.
Why?
And little things like when you move between levels, you don't, it doesn't regenerate your health. So if you end a level nearly dead, you'll start the next level nearly dead. And it's like, well, now I'm just going to die straight away in this new level. Why just give me full health at the start?
And then when you die and you game over and you start again, you start off with the low health, don't you?
Yeah. It's just
so it's like you're just constantly at low health, and then you have to like struggle your way to a point where you'll get some health and hopefully make it through. I think it needed a couple of quality of life improvements to make the game feel not so much of a chore. Like, probably there are quality of life improvements in there, but health at the beginning of, like, you don't even need to have, like, you can get vials that give you your health back when you die. So they basically count as lives that you have to refill as you progress through the level. Like, even if they just don't fill them for you when you die, when you start a new level, and it just fills your bar of health, and that's it.
Yeah.
That would be much more preferable than going, shit, I'm one hit and dead, and then being one hit and dead until you make progress.
Yeah. Like I say, that kind of quality of life difference would have changed it quite a lot. And I do wonder whether it's, like I say, one of the reasons why I'm interested to go back and see what the first game really was like, the original really was like, because maybe it's just one of these things where someone said, no, we're going to make this and keep it gameplay the same as it was before.
Yeah.
And they were constrained by that. But even you think of stuff that's had remakes recently or remasters recently, they'll have like a classic mode and a like modern mode where they're kind of a bit more hand holding and a bit more of these like quality of life things that people expect now. Just put two options in there. Let me choose the modern style gameplay. Let me just have a few more tweaks to make it feel newer.
Yeah.
And
I do wonder,
yeah.
like, obviously we play in a remake of the first game, of the original game. I wonder what our opinions would be, because obviously we're not going to know, but I wonder what our opinions would be at the time, because at the time it was probably like that for the majority of games. It wasn't like most games didn't have like good lock-on systems and things. So I think because we've gotten used to things generally being better in the quality of life department, I think that maybe we're harsher on it than we would have been if we played it back in the day.
Yeah, I think that's undeniably true. Yeah, we don't have nostalgia for the original because we didn't play it. And so all we're doing is judging it by today's standards, even though you try and go into these things with that, open mind of, I know this is an old game. It's going to have, rough edges, but yeah, I think we're probably, still being a little bit harsh on it because it gameplay wise, you've got to think of it as a 90s game rather than a modern game. And but compared to other games, I think it came out in 1998, the original. And you think, like what else was around then as like third person action games? Like not a lot. And it's not like everyone else was doing these things better. Like Zelda, like you talk about lock on, like Ocarina of Time was the game that sort of pioneered the lock on, and that only came out in 1998. So it's not like they could have copied that.
Yeah, but I was kind of disappointed with it, I would say, overall, because I wanted to like it, because I remember, like, I never played it, but I remember people talking about it, like, over the years, saying, yeah, Medieval, that was a good game on PlayStation 1, do you remember that? And I'm like, I never played it. But I do remember the game, never played it. Like, I remember knowing of the game then, not so much knowing the game. But I would literally just give me a fucking lock on and I will play through the rest of the game. You developers, go back and put a lock on.
Yeah, but I was exactly the same, because it's one of those that it passed me by at the time, but I was always aware of it, and I was always aware of it in terms of people thought about it fondly, and they were, it was a well regarded like PlayStation 1 action game, and so that's why I kind of thought, oh, this will be a good thing to experience. I've always wanted to play this, and now I realise that I should have left it well alone.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a little bit.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's by no means a terrible game.
It's not a bad game. It's just
like a lot of these, like remasters and things. I think if you haven't got that nostalgia for the original, it is hard to win over someone for the first time, I think.
I think it's a decent game, let down by a few niggles that I have personally. I can see other people playing the game and having a lot of fun with it, but for me, like I said, I enjoyed like quite a bit of the game, like not so much exploring, but moving throughout the levels, because the levels were actually pretty interesting, and the enemies are actually not too bad apart from the scarecrows. The enemy designs are good. Even the scarecrows are cool and scarecrowy. But it's literally that the combat feels weightless. It feels like there's no impact on anything. And it is literally, as you said, you run in and you got to try and hit the thing lots before it kills you. And you're always and it's very rare you get into a fight with your sword, especially, and win without taking a hit. Half the time, as you run into an enemy to hit them, even if they die once, they'll hit you at the same time.
Yeah.
So by die once, I mean die by getting hit once. So yeah, it's a shame, but I'm not sure if I'm going to go back to it. Like with some of the games I've talked about on here, like 2 of them before, I hadn't finished. One of them I said I will go back and finish it, and I did go back and finish it. One of the games I said I might go back, and then in the next episode I was like, yeah, I'm not. And this one I'm saying I don't think I'm going to go back to it because it just isn't enjoyable enough. I think if the combat was tweaked, I'd be straight in there.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I stand on it as well. If I really find myself, bored with nothing else to distract me, I might try and finish this off, but it's not high on my list of priorities in terms of getting through games in the immediate future. I'm not completely down on it. Like you say, I was enjoying it for a period of time, and it's kind of got at first quite a nice sort of retro, feel of this is quite simple, and it's quite refreshing to play something that is quite simple. It is just moving around and killing things. And it's like every now and then that's all you need. It's just if it did that basic gameplay loop a little bit better, I think it would have been just a much more enjoyable experience.
Yeah, I'm with you on that completely because I don't really know what else to say about it other than like I'm a little disappointed.
One game that kept coming to my mind when I was playing, I don't know if you ever played the Capcom like PS2 Maximo games. They were kind of like Ghosts and Goblins, but in 3D was the sort of original idea of it. And this just made me think of a worse version of that series.
I might have to have a look into that. See what that's like.
I think it's called like Maximo Ghosts to Glory, I think it was called. And it was a PS2 game by Capcom. And it's kind of like 3D ghouls and ghosts is the sort of the pitch for it. And that's what this felt like.
If my Maximo guy isn't in his pants, running around in his boxers, then I don't want to play.
I can confirm that is what happens. Yet when you lose your health, you lose your armor, and you are running around in your pants.
Awesome.
So instant 10 out of 10. Edge 10.
Yeah. Edge 10. Edge 11.
But that was quite a retro type game. But it's got similarities to this, and it just feels like a much better game than sadly what Medieval is.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we came away not enjoying it. I wouldn't rate it out of 10 because I didn't finish the game, so it automatically would score 0 because I didn't finish. But that wouldn't be the fault of the game. That would be the fault of me. So I rate the 0.
Yeah. It's the fault of you because you didn't finish it, but the reason you didn't finish it is because of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not the worst game I played on the podcast. The worst one was the horror game I did, Shadow Corridor. Didn't like it. It was yawn. But it's certainly not the best. Every other game I think could be better.
Well, there we go. The only way is up.
Exactly. Anyway, I think that is going to be us for this evening. I will be back in a fortnight with another episode. I don't know who's taking part because I forgot to ask about or what game we're going to be playing. But I would like to thank Jenuall for taking part.
It's been a pleasure.
Glad to have you on, man. It's nice to speak to you again. And
you too.
That's going to be it. So, bye-bye.
See ya.
Hello, and welcome to Pedz' Game Shack. Good way to start it. Pedz' Game Shop. Right.